What is going on? Al Lichinsky here for the Get More Client Show. As always, joined with my co-host Brian Downard. Today, we are going to be talking about breaking out of the freelancer trap. Now, if you don't know what that means, it means the business that has imprisoned you in a job that you never wanted in the first place because you got what we call a Frankenstein agency, a monster agency that's requiring everything from you, wearing all the hats, not having the right team in place, micromanaging everyone, serving anyone you can, building ridiculously bad systems, and ultimately not creating repeatable and predictable processes. We've been here before. We know what this is like. We have our own firsthand experiences that we're going to share today, plus the specific elements to consider when you do have a freelancer trap model and how to break out of that freelancer trap model and avoid a Frankenstein business all together. Brian, how you doing today, my man?
I'm excited. This is a serious topic, and I feel like a lot of people have to learn the lesson themselves by making the mistake because they hear it and they know it, but they still do it. And I think it's because a lot of people have the best intentions of wanting to serve as many people as possible or getting an easy referral and someone who needs your help and is willing to pay right then and there. It's hard to turn that down. So I would say this isn't just for people who categorize themselves as a freelancer. I would say this is for agency owners who are doing good but feel tied down and lacking time and availability to work on their business because they're so tied to all their individual clients. We have a lot of people in our program who do 10, 20, 30K, but they still don't have the systems in place to remove themselves from the business, and they're still doing too many of the things themselves. So hopefully we can save some people a lot of time today. And if you're in a position where you feel like that right now, then like Alex said, we're going to cover some strategies to get you out of that hole.
Awesome. If you are watching this, please do us a quick favor. Hit that like button or the subscribe button or comment on it. Even if you comment something negatively, it helps us. So we're cool either way. If you want to hurt our feelings and stuff, it's totally fine.
Tell me you don't like my my new shave job. That was an accident. So we'll another
it-
story for another day. I look like a child today.
Brian was actually trying to measure up because we have a newborn child, and he was trying to help me out by looking like a newborn child as well. So that's how we're doing it today. Brian, today I was actually talking to someone who's stuck in the freelancer trap and building a Frankenstein agency, and I thought it was a perfect segue into what is the freelancer trap, right? So doing everything in your business, wearing all the hats, essentially offering any service to anyone at any time for any price. The metaphor that I like to use is this model where basically you have a fishing pole attached to your back, and in front of your face is like dollars that are just hanging there on the hook, right? And sometimes you go and grab it and it's fine, and other times you're missing it. But the problem is it's always there and it's always available for you like bait, and you can't help yourself. You just have to take it. No matter if it's a project that's going to take you an inordinate amount of time, it's going to be a huge waste of your energy. You're not going to create a lot of profit on it, but it's money, and it's really hard to say no to money. We spoke in the last episode about agency gods, like what God in your agency model are you really speaking to? And I think a lot of people want to say, it's not money, it's fulfillment, it's freedom, it's happiness, it's success. Except when push comes to shove, for nearly everyone, and probably you listening, your agency God is money and only money. And you're not a greedy person, but you have a hard time saying no to it, right? So we were just talking about this yesterday in our Scale 7 community, our mastermind, our 12-month mastermind program. And people were talking about when is the right time to go outside of your standard niche model, right? Your vertical or horizontal scaling. And just a quick recap, we spoke about this in a previous episode. Just want to make sure you understand. When you are vertical scaling, that's one niche, one offer, one process, easy to repeat, easy to make more predictable, easy to grow and scale. Horizontal scaling is doing that, but in a bunch of different niches. That's where you lose out on creating massive progress in one direction and make millimeters of progress in a million directions. We spoke about Essentialism, the book by Greg McKeown. If you missed that episode, go back, watch it. It's some good stuff. And our clip show as well on YouTube. Now, coming back to this, we were talking about when is it okay to step out, right? Step out of that vertical scaling and start identifying and working with people that are not necessarily in your niche, and good idea to actually take and do the Frankenstein agency. And Brian and I were talking about the idea that there's no right or wrong. It's not black or white by any means. What's right for one person may not be for the other person, right? But what you want to always consider is what's your purpose behind outside just the money of taking this opportunity, right? If the idea is that it's not going to take you a lot of time because it's outsourced and it's easy to do and it will create an opportunity for you long term to create a lot of new revenue, by all means go for it. But if it's an $1,000 website that's going to take you 10 hours to do, you're probably better suited to take that 10 hours and go work in your niche in your industry. I like for people to consider the time cost of doing things as opposed to just the money income that you're making. People like to pretend revenue is key. The reality is profit is king and time is queen. Those are the things that are really going to allow you to build a real business, not just a job. Because being the CEO doesn't mean that you do nothing. It means doing what you want. We're not here to try to give you a conventional model of this is what, Gene Wickman says in Traction, and a CEO should be the person that only heads up strategy and PR and this and that and the other. You can do what you want. It's why I still take sales calls in my coaching program, not because that's a conventional CEO model, but it's because what I want to do. Now, if I was forced to do the sales calls, that would mean we're stuck in a freelance model, a freelancer's trap, imprisoned in the job. And the irony of this is, Brian, we have people come to us and say, I hate my life, I hate doing this agency, it's too much work, it's not working, it's this, that, and the other. And Brian and I are like, then why are you doing it? Go get a job. This is your choice. How can you choose to do something that you don't like? It makes total sense coming to us and saying, I work for this boss. He's the worst. He's such an asshole. He makes me do all these things. He makes me clock in at 10 p.m. at night and do all this work. And then when you realize who's the boss, you're the boss. You're your own worst boss. What are you doing? Why are you building a job for yourself? Remember, we don't want you having a Frankenstein agency serving everyone, doing everything. We don't want you being stuck in the freelancer trap, having to do everything yourself and wearing all the hats. Before we talk about why you should escape it, I want to talk about one of the key elements of people getting stuck in the freelancer's trap, and that's this death sentence of a sentence. The irony there was that I wasn't prepared to say that, but it happened anyways. The death sentence of saying, I can do this faster myself. Do a little math with me, which is not my favorite subject, but I think it will be valuable to consider. If you are saying that 100 times a year for a 30-minute task, that's 50 extra hours that you put into a task because you said, I can do it faster. If instead of spending the 50 extra hours to do a task that you never should have done yourself, and you took 2 hours the first time to build a repeatable, profitable, predictable system that you can hand off to allow someone else to do, we just saved you 48 hours. 48 hours, do whatever you like, with whoever you like, however you like, whenever you like. Think about it that way. None of us can buy time. The great, incredible equalizer for all human beings, no matter what skill set you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter what experience you have, is 24 hours in a day. Everyone has it. How you use it is key. So why would you use it and choose it to be stuck in the freelancer trap? And that's why you should break free. Brian, why don't you talk a little bit about why and how to break free from this freelancer trap?
Yeah, I think the most important reason for me is it allows you to start making decisions out of abundance instead of scarcity. I think a lot of times we take the deals, the clients, the red flag clients out of fear we might not have another one, or we need that money, or we are too attached to our own process, or we're unwilling to hire someone because we have the ego of thinking no one else can do this as good as us or better. But if you want to stop hitting a glass ceiling in your business and feel like you actually have the capacity to scale beyond whatever level you're at right now, you need to metaphorically let go of the branch and fall into the unknown. And it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be challenges in hiring people, finding the right fits, making sure your clients are taken care of by someone you trust. These aren't easy things to do, but they're necessary parts of growth. And if you are continuously acting out of scarcity because you feel like you need all the money rather than the mindset of a real business owner that I'm going to take this money, pay myself a salary, then reinvest back into the business so we can grow, you're going to stay stuck just taking whatever comes to you. And I love to use the metaphor of the moose and the muffin, where if you give a moose a muffin, I probably talked about this on the show before, but in a nutshell, if you give a moose a muffin, they're going to ask for more. They're going to want butter. They're going to want to come in. They're going to want to knit a sweater, sleep on your sofa. Then they're going to be your roommate before you know it. And I think this is another important lesson and why avoiding the freelancer's trap is so important. And I just got off a call with a client today where I was sharing that kind of funny kid story because he admitted to having given his clients too much access and too much ability to call him, text him at inappropriate times, and make requests of his time that are frankly unreasonable based on what they're paying him. So again, if you are doing everything in the business, you're creating these mini bosses out of your clients and putting all the weight on your back. And I was just expressing the peace of mind. I think this is another important reason why, is the peace of mind that comes with having people you trust on a team to do things for you, like our incredible team we have. Just thinking about the number of things they do on the back end to support us, to make our life easier and the experience better for our clients, there's almost no value you can really place on that. I mean, they do have a salary, but still, in terms of buying our time back, invaluable. And the last points, I would say, when you're in the freelancer's trap, because you're doing everything, you're typically being reactive to finding clients instead of proactive. So because you max out at a certain stage, you typically wait until, okay, now I need a client. Oh crap, I got to go do prospecting. But most of you can't just flip a light switch on and get leads unless you're good at ads. We do that in our program. We help people turn on light switches and get leads with ads. But if you're in a place where you don't have a lot of money to invest in ads, like a couple grand to acquire a client, and you have to do outbound prospecting and go to them, watch our previous episodes to learn how. You're going to need more than a couple of days or a week or two to make that happen. It's a month, 2-month process of creating opportunities, filling a pipeline, and consistently having opportunities. So I don't want you to be reactive. And again, when you're in the business, you're reactive to that because you're only doing it when you need it. And that's not a good way to scale a business. And you'll be caught with your pants down, metaphorically, in a bad situation where you need clients and revenue, but you don't have any opportunities because you were too busy doing all the other client work for the client or clients you recently lost. So just a consideration here. I also think the last reason would be is if you're not a freaking pro at doing a certain thing, running campaigns, generating leads, etc., you need white label support. You shouldn't be doing it yourself anyways. I feel so frustrated in the marketplace. There's so many people selling courses on how to be like a button pusher and an executor, and there's agencies and white label service teams out there. You need to know how to sell and generate leads, not necessarily be the best marketer in the world. You can hire that help. And again, put your business owner hat on. Who are the pieces you need, areas outside of your zone of genius, and fill those. So let's continue the episode. I'm excited for this piece. We're going to talk about some personal lessons as it relates to being stuck in the freelancer's trap. Or not even just lessons, but stories. Hopefully you can pull some lessons from that. Alex, I'll actually let you take this one away first, and then I'll kick it over to my story.
Oh, the journey of the freelancer trap. So fun. We've all been there, I'm sure. I think part of the reason why Brian and I are so strongly, opinionated on the freelancer trap is because we both fell into it prior and lied to ourselves for a good amount of time on saying it's not a problem. Like we said, like the god of money is very challenging. You could say you're the most non-greedy or ungreedy person in the world, and then when opportunities come in front of your face, even if it's a ridiculous amount of time, way out of your scope and out of your genius to make the deal work, like you just want to be a savior of everyone and take the money that you can, whether out of necessity or out of like you just can't stop yourself, like a drug addict to money. Like it happens. A lot of people suffer with this, and I think if you listen to Brian and my personal story on how we've been stuck in the freelancer trap before, and how we've had Frankenstein businesses, because both of us have had this, we speak from firsthand experience, not on the high horse of like we've never done this because we're fancy and sophisticated, and we have never had any services or models that we've worked in that have always worked. Like that's not the model, like it's just not. So my Frankenstein agency was, first of all, before I even had an agency. So we spoke about this earlier on, so I'm not going to rehash the story, but if you remember, I was working for the Miami Dolphins. I was writing for the UFC on SB Nation, which is a pretty well-known website for sports blogs. I was also doing advertising for attorneys. I was doing constant contact emails for attorneys. And I think I was also going to school at the time. So I was doing those like 5 main things outside of just being, 18, 19, 20 years old, and wanting to live a life and, date this incredible woman who just had our first kid now 10 years later. Pretty crazy. But all of these elements, right, fell in line into kind of my Frankenstein life. Like this was my Frankenstein life in business, because I was not trying to put together a plan to make anything repeatable or predictable. Now, to give myself a little bit of credit, I did find someone that went to Indiana University, and he became a intern for me that did help with some of the constant contact stuff. I think that was my first foray into trying to hire someone. It worked out pretty well. He was a great guy. It was really interesting doing that. But I think ultimately my biggest thing at the time was I just needed to make money. That's what I needed. I needed to make money. So I was going to do whatever it took to make money, even though making money consisted of basically making $1 per written article that I would write, which would take at minimum an hour. And that's legit. That actually happened. Unless I was writing about Tom Brady, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, any like very large athlete, I was not going to make more than $30 to $50 a piece. Like that was true. Like that was just a reality. I was going to probably make $1 to $10 per article. For the attorneys, I was making anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a piece. For the constant contact, I was making maybe $200 per. I was just doing a bunch of random things. I was losing clients, trying to learn ads, trying to implement other models, trying to figure out who I can outsource to, trying to offer social media services that no one wanted. I was writing on the side for a few $100s. It was just a Frankenstein life and business, and I was literally writing sometimes until 3 a.m. I live here in the East Coast, and UFC pay-per-views are at 10 p.m. at night. The main event for many pay-per-views start literally at 12:30. For any Conor McGregor fight, it's going to start in the Eastern time zone at like midnight, 12:15. Fight might be over 12:45, and then I have to write an article until 1:30, 1:45 to be published next morning at 9 a.m. It was terrible. Honestly, it was just a terrible experience. I loved it. I had a lot of fun because I'm a big sports fan, but just in retrospect of kind of like what I was sacrificing at that time, my sleep, my ingenuity, my thought process, my creativity was all being thrown to the wayside just for a couple extra bucks. And that's just an unhealthy model and an unhealthy mindset. And I let that happen for almost 5 years. 5 years that I was working in this inconsistent model, lack of predictability, even though my absolute opportunity, the biggest agency model I had, was right in front of my face. All I had to do was quit working and writing. All I had to do was stop sending constant contact emails. All I had to do was ask the attorneys what service they really wanted. All I had to do was find someone who can do ads a lot better than me. And then all I had to focus on was selling those ads. And once I did that, my growth exploded. And I thought that I was so naive at the time to consider that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to put a bunch of puzzle pieces from 7 different puzzles and hope they stick together. And frankly, it just never works. And that's how I created my Frankenstein agency and my Freelancer's Trap. Brian, what was yours?
Yeah, so the first real business where I actually made money. Second business I started was when we made iPhone apps. And this was back in 2010, probably. We were making these iPhone apps. And I thought that I needed to be the expert on learning how to make the apps. So that's a pretty damn big learning curve. If you're not technical or you don't know how to code, which I didn't, I actually flunked my college coding class because it was already like, it was strange. It was code like 101, like the first level, but there was already this like assumed knowledge that people had, like we were just crushing it. I had no clue what I was doing. That wasn't even apps. That was like the most basic form of code. So I actually, without knowing it, did the smart thing, but then I did a stupid thing. I did both smart and stupid thing. I was like, okay, I can't build the whole thing myself. Let's find a developer who can build build like the framework, and I'll just put the pieces together. So I paid $20,000 for a guy to build a template app. Two bad issues with that. One, there's always updates, always new phones, phone sizes, screen sizes, iPhone updates, and we could never keep up because the code constantly needed to be updated. But even with the baseline code, we still had to go create from scratch apps for clients. So it was this ass-backwards process of once we actually got a client, I would, with a friend of mine, Matt, who you met, Alex, would put our heads down for 2 months and work on this project and not do anything else. And then we would look up, we would have made a little bit of money, but now we needed a new project and we had no time to have done prospecting in those 2 months. So we were back to square one. Okay, we have to go hunt for a client. We got to act out of scarcity. We got to do stupid things, take on deals we don't want to just because we need the money. And this was me being reactive to the business versus actually being able to have time to generate opportunities while we did the work itself. And or the smarter thing to do would have been to hire someone who was much more savvy than myself at building these things and putting them together to help manage. I was doing all of the building. We'd literally show up at 9 a.m. to the office, which was my parents' spare bedroom, put on music and work until like 3 p.m. and do that 5 days a week. We're like, this is entrepreneurship. Yeah. Oh my God. It was mind numbing and painful. So it took me a couple of years to realize, first of all, I need an offer that's scalable, that doesn't require me to be in it. Second of all, I need consistent opportunities. So that was my Frankenstein agency. So let's turn this now to, I'm just making all the transitions today. That's fun. I would love to focus next on some actual practical applications. Like we'll talk about different paths in a moment, or not a moment, just in a couple of minutes. Like if you are in it now, what you should do versus how to avoid it. But let's just talk about some themes, overall ideas, concepts, that you should really be considering through this entire topic we're going through today. So Alex, I'll kick it over to you and we can start with some of the things we got written down here and then we can, I'll take over the next ones.
Love it. Yeah, I think a lot of people listening right now will feel comfortable with the mindset and practices we're about to share. The most important thing is niching down. Now, you've probably heard this before if you're in the agency space or in the coaching space for any amount of time. Literally any video you've ever watched about building a marketing agency or a coaching program or any sort of business online requires you to niche down. And the biggest reason why is just simply shooting fish in a barrel versus trying to fish from the entire ocean. Just a lot easier to focus in on an avatar that you understand their needs, their problems, their obstacles, their goals, their specific lingo, their payment models, their sales processes. The entire business can be learned so much easier when you focus on one, and then you create easier and more repeatable processes. It's why a car dealership doesn't make 40 different styles of cars. You're not going to have one car dealership make Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Mercedes and BMWs. They just make the same car over and over and over and over again. What can we do to build out that repeatable, predictable machine? Now, some people then tell me, Brian, oh, but that's so boring. Good. The business is meant to be boring, because once it's boring, then you can build a freelance model, not out of scarcity, but out of, yes, Brian said it before, abundance, right? If you're doing the freelance model or Frankenstein agency out of scarcity, that's worse than boring. It's the opposite of boring. It's way too strenuous. It's way too much action. It's way too much work. It's way too stressful, right? But if you have a business model where you have 10 to 50 of the same clients over and over and over that allow you to be freed up with your time because their offer is locked in, then that opens you up to do the consulting work that you want, do the pro bono work you want with your religious organization down the road, to help your local friend who has an Etsy store and wants to sell more product online, to go try out a new sandbox idea that you have. If you're doing it out of abundance, then you're doing it out of growth opportunity and mindset with freedom of your time and choice, as opposed to restricted based on the money, right? We keep coming back to this. It's why niching down is so important. We're not trying to make you make a boring business. We're trying to help you build a boring business to free up time to do whatever you want. That is the biggest goal. Now, in terms of niching down, we can talk an entire show about the ideal niches to consider. That's not going to be for today, but we do want you to feel comfortable to start thinking about your local network first. Who do you know? Those are the people that you should consider, because you can do easy market research, build out an offer for them, and start building repeatable and predictable processes for that. Let's talk now about red flag clients so you can kind of identify these people. It's very ironic. I'm sure some of you have seen this meme going around recently about this $500 client versus $5,000 or $50,000 client. The $500 client's like, this is out of my budget. I need 45 different edits of this website. I need to consult with 15 of your clients before I make my decision. I need 3 months to decide. I want a discount. I need all these things, right? And then the $5,000 client's like, cool, awesome, send the invoice, right? It's ironic how the lowest ticket clients are the ones that expect the most, and the highest ticket clients just want the service done for them. Trying to find the right ideal clients is really key, and you've got to be comfortable with red flag clients. It's absolutely mind-numbing how many people in this industry are like, I knew they wouldn't be a good fit, but I still tried to sell them anyways. Why? What's the purpose of that? Why would you want to work with someone who's frustrating or difficult or challenging? If they're being rude or challenging or difficult on a sales call, imagine what they're going to be like when they actually pay you money. You don't want this. Cheap clients want it all and they want you to save them. Don't be a savior for anyone. Trust me, coming from someone who used to literally have the S scarred onto my chest. Ironic as I say that because I have an actual scar. But if you could identify someone who wanted to be the savior for people, it'd be this guy, two thumbs, Alex Linsky. But it's not a healthy thing to do because it puts too much pressure on you and it's just not reasonable or fair. We actually have in our program when someone joins this promise at the end that's like, we can't save you. No one can save you. You're in control of your destiny. We can help you, but we won't save you. Are you okay with that? And that allows them to take ownership of this process because it's similar to like going to a gym. You can't go to the gym and say, hey, here's, $1,000 for my year up front. Give me abs, right? Because if you could do that, bro, I'd have abs. That's the truth because I'd buy them, but you can't. So you got to put in the work. You have to have the right clients. Avoid red flag clients. The next thing you want to do and consider when you're trying to avoid or not have a freelancer trap business or a Frankenstein agency is making sure you're working on the business as much in it. And this is a really challenging thing. And a lot of people will try to decipher and identify, like, is the sales call on or in? And how does this process work? I think the biggest key is identifying for you what systems you have to work on and what systems you have to work in. Brian's about to talk a little bit about the 5 questions to clarity, which are really valuable, immensely powerful model to consider what you should be working on versus what you should be working in. But a simple model is making sure every day you have tasks that you're working in the business on. Usually it's going to be prospecting or fulfillment or team or management of your communication with your team and clients and things that you're working on. Here's the easiest thing that I like to bring up to help people with this. The first thing you want to consider is IKEA furniture. You're like, Alex, how does a Swedish furniture company that has great meatballs have anything to do with Frankenstein agencies? Well, besides for the correlation that probably Frankenstein likes to eat Swedish meatballs, the other element to this is identifying what's a repeatable task. The desk that I'm on right now was bought from IKEA. Now, when I got the IKEA furniture desk, it didn't come ready-made. It came with instructions, and those instructions were extremely simple. You take the top of the board of the desk and you screw it in to the legs, and bang, it's done. Except the desk was made before that, right? Someone had to chop a tree down and someone had to sand the tree and someone had to put the lacquer on the finish and then put the welding together of the, legs. And you guys can obviously see I'm certainly no contractor by any means. I can't even put like freaking pictures on my wall, but you get the idea, right? What you want to do in your business is identify what are the IKEA furniture tasks? What are the easy, repeatable systems that you're constantly doing that all you have to do is do A, B, and C, and then bang, it's done. That's the first thing you can hand off. Build all of those systems first. It will immediately save you time because the artistry, carpenter type SOPs, the ones where it's like ads optimization or communication when a client is unhappy, like the soft skill ones, the ones that cause a little artistry, aka kind of difficult to ask, hey, Picasso, give me an SOP on how you paint. Not exactly that easy to do, right? Asking him what type of brushes he uses, what type of paint, that's IKEA furniture. How he actually goes about it, a little bit different. So again, starting off with the IKEA furniture instructions, the simple SOPs that are repeatable will automatically save you time. And that's an easy working on the task business or working on the business task that's going to really help you in the long run. And then finally, you just want to bring intention to everything that you do in this business. Stop doing things randomly just because. So many of you wake up every day and you're like, okay, what do I do today? Let's be Tasmanian Devil and just go after it. And then at the end of the day, you're either completely wiped out or you did absolutely nothing because you got stuck in a YouTube video about how to like mine Bitcoin with computers or some shit. Like you're just doing a bunch of random things online and you're getting distracted because you have ADD because you're not focused actually on what's the task at hand. Use a calendar, use a focus. Here's a simple hack that we use that really helps us a lot. It's called the daily focus. The night before, you put 3 things on your calendar that you have to get done the next day. If you do that consistently, day after day, you start to realize that you're making momentous progress. At the end of the day, identify, did I start this task? Did I finish this task or I did not start this task? If you have a lot of started but didn't finish, that means you don't know how to prioritize your time correctly and you'll start to learn how to batch the things because some people will be like, I'm going to work on X website tomorrow, except the website is like a 10-hour project. You're not going to finish it in one day. So instead, the next time you have a website, you're like, I'm going to build the wireframe for the website and compile the X amount of pictures I need. This is how you'll start becoming more intentional. use your calendar. Last thing I'll say on this, John Davies shout out, I think I shout him out in 2 episodes in a row on this, but don't forget this, right? We used to always say, what tool should we use for blah, blah, blah? And he would say, it doesn't matter what tool you use. It matters how you use it. That is being intentional. Brian, what else is there?
Yeah, so you set this up a little bit for me already, which I appreciate, but we have an invaluable resource in our community called the 5 Questions to Clarity. And in a nutshell, it's a simple spreadsheet that helps you identify the areas of your business you need to create systems for, areas you need to delegate, things you need to stop doing, and really just helps you get extremely clear on what are the things you want and need to actually get off of your plate. Because if you're just again, doing things day to day kind of randomly and not thinking, okay, what can I stop doing? Again, back to the metaphor Alex talked about, like IKEA, what are the repeatable tasks you can do? And then actually spending the time to create SOPs around them. It's so funny. I feel like people are so afraid of the idea of an SOP. Like inherently it makes sense when in execution, they don't want to do it or they get afraid or it just doesn't happen. So first thing would be actually identifying what you want to stop doing or create systems around and delegate. And then the second piece would be create a process around that. And I'm going to give you 2 really practical models here. The one, which is the way I prefer, is to do a brain dump of what the process actually looks like. Just do bullet points. Does not have to be perfect. What are the major steps of the process you're considering? And then you can go back later and as you do it live or as an example, just record each of those steps and then compile it in that document. If you want later down the road, you can go back and add the sub steps, have a VA do that for you, but that's option 1. Option 2 is you can just record yourself doing it and then come back later and timestamp the important elements. And then again, you and or a VA or someone you work with can pull the important elements out and write that down in a document. So just again, the 10, 20, 30 minutes extra it takes you to do a task and record yourself doing it will save you the hours it takes doing that task over and over again in the future. So just consider that. It's very, very important. And any ways where you can find and create leverage in the business, do that. Another example for us would be as a coaching program, sometimes we get a lot of the same questions. So we're in the process of building out a database of frequently asked questions that not only the clients have access to, but as we scale, our coaches have access to, so they know how we would answer certain questions. So anywhere where you can find those levers to make your business more scalable are definitely things you should be considering and focusing on. I talked a little bit about this already, and that's the idea of letting go of the metaphoric branch and this fear and or ego we have around no one else can do this as good as me. Just stop that bullshit. Like, there are plenty of people out there just as good as you, if not better. Maybe they're not as good right now, but if you can train them up to be, 90-95% of what you do, that's probably going to be more than enough. So I want just to let go of that ego, let go of the branch. And this is actually a concept I talk about in the book Traction up on my shelf. I'm working on rereading it right now because it's such a great read. But they talk a lot about that concept and the idea that the struggles you need to go through in order to get there are a requirement of the success you'll achieve by doing it. So I want to pause that and re-listen to that because that was pretty good. I felt like that was stated pretty well. So I'm going to have to rewrite that for a Facebook post sometime. But please go back and listen to that because it's critical. So a couple of other items here to consider, and I mentioned this also a little bit earlier, but not this phrase, but revenue generating activities, more specifically, my story around only being reactive to when I need leads versus having a daily and weekly system, KPIs, and a routine around actual lead gen and prospecting. So be intentional. Again, what are the revenue generating activities you can spend time on outbound prospecting, building your ads, going to local meetups, doing interview offer, having the Dream 100 where you're going directly to dream clients and referral sources, content partnerships. There's a lot of avenues. We talk about some in previous episodes, but find 1 or 2 that work for you, get those done well, and then you can layer on more later. Don't try and do too much at once. And then the last thing, and this is probably one of the most important elements around the freelancer's trap, is do not charge your clients hourly. This is so dangerous because you're putting an expectation on them. Basically, what you're saying and what they're saying is I value things taking longer than they actually should because they're paying to receive an outcome. If it takes longer, it costs more, versus what we recommend is value-based pricing and determining what the value of what you do actually accomplishes for your clients in terms of time revenue, in terms of actual revenue, and then being able to pick a price based on that. We can do an entire episode on pricing later. I just want you to move away from the idea of doing hourly work. Project-based work can be okay. It's not predictable, and I would ideally only do that if you can stack on a retainer after the fact. And I would also, frankly, avoid super custom projects like website builds that are super technical, because there's so many headaches that can come up when that's not IKEA furniture, that's not repeatable. So really avoid some of these things we've been talking about and do some of the flip side of that, the things we've been recommending from these practical themes and processes. Now let's bring this all home with talking about the two different paths that you could potentially take or be on right now as you're listening to this. And I'll take the first one, and Alex, I'll kick it over to you. The first path would be you're in a place right now where you have few or no clients and you're wanting to grow, and you're listening to this proactively, smart, good on you, and you're wanting to avoid doing this because you don't want to be a freelancer, you want to build a real business and not have it consume your life. So the very first thing I want to say to those people who are in that place is really try to avoid the single client trap, where you start to allow your first, second, third, those initial clients who you really want to over deliver for, but they start to expect that to become the norm, and then they abuse your time. Classic Moose and the Muffin story, where you try and do a little extra and then it turns into this thing where you're doing everything for them and they're maybe only paying you a few $1,000s a month, significantly handicaps your ability to scale because you already hit that glass ceiling. You don't even have more than a couple of clients. It's so easy for this to happen because you want to do everything for that person versus just producing one result and doing that really well. So be very careful you don't become the end all be all for a couple of people, because I know that's how it can happen for newer agency owners, especially if you're referred to someone and you're a newer marketer and you're not sure what to do. And you just do everything. Very dangerous. That's how you, again, create a Frankenstein agency and mini bosses where they're micromanaging you because you're not sure about how to get the result. They're not sure. And then it's just this clusterfuck of nonsense. So really want you to consider that. We brought this up a couple times on the show too, but the idea of really identifying your zone of genius. What are you best at? What do you enjoy doing most? And being intentional around hiring outside of that where you don't want to do the things, and scheduling and focusing on with your time the things you do want to. Now, granted, just bluntly, at the beginning stages of your agency and your business, if you're on this newer agency owner path, there's going to be shit you probably don't want to do that we're going to want you to do, or people who are smart and will force you out of your comfort zone will ask you to do, like going to people, interrupting their day by messaging them and calling them so you can generate an opportunity knowing you're going to help them. There's things you can do or will have to do at the beginning that you might not want to do, but are a requirement of success and being able to show the next person how to successfully do that. But long term, stay within your zone of genius. Don't try and do everything. I would also say it's probably a smart idea, unless you, honestly, even if you are just an ads pro, make an SOP of your process and then hire someone or find a white label team support on your unique process. But I would say more like 18 out of 20. So, 95% of people listening to this are going to not be an absolute beast at what they do and should more realistically get white label help, because this will immediately remove you from the freelancer's trap of, as you get a client, you have back-end support to actually do the fulfillment for you. Now, a consideration there is marrying how you onboard and communicate with a client with what your white label team does, and make sure that that's seamless and not a broken process. But one of the most important considerations to avoid the freelancer's trap is having that white label support initially, and then you can bring it in-house and reduce the margins or increase your margins as you get better at it, and you can create a process around what they did. I would also encourage you to just avoid learning how to do everything. A lot of newer agency owners, again, have this belief, I need to go learn how to do Facebook ads. I would say the only real requirement of a new agency owner and what they should know how to do is generate opportunities and close deals. I would say that's the bare, and give a shit about your clients. Those are the bare minimums you need as a new agency owner. And again, find support elsewhere to fulfill on those clients. Avoid spending the time and energy to go into a program. I won't name a lot of gurus out there who got rich off these things, teaching people how to do a specific thing like Facebook ads, right? You don't have to be the expert in the fulfillment piece of the business. And the last thing I'll say as a newer agency owner wanting to avoid this long term is create a service level agreement. I'm sure we brought this up on the show before, but you need something that sets an expectation and tone for not only the relationship and what they will get, but how you will communicate with them, where they can communicate with you, where they cannot. Not giving them your cell phone number, but an email where they can get support, send messages, and have a realistic time frame on when you will get back to them. Because again, it's so easy to just, okay, I'm going to give out my personal number. Now you're getting phone calls on date night, on Friday night, or on your weekends. And you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this. And that's not fair to you, and you shouldn't have to, but you never set the expectation or drew the line in the sand. So just threw a lot at you, but if you're a newer agency owner, listen to my words. Those things will help you massively avoid this altogether. So Alex, let's talk about for some of the people who may already be in a place where, crap, I am building a Frankenstein agency, or oh my God, I already have one. It broke out of the lab and it's about to kill me. What should these people be doing?
If it's about to kill you, I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do. Joking aside,
It's actually Dr. Frankenstein. I always get that wrong.
How do you? Yeah, the Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's Monster. That's actually a common misconception. How do you break out of the Freelancer Trap or fix a Frankenstein agency if you've already got one? Now, again, we shared earlier what the elements of that Frankenstein agency would be. You're working with a bunch of different niches. You've got a bunch of different team members doing a bunch of different things. You are wearing a ton of hats and doing things in prospecting and in sales and client communication and team management and micromanagement and strategy development and all this stuff, right? You're doing everything. You've got clients paying a bunch of different prices. You've got clients in a bunch of different niches with a bunch of different offers. Very common model. Today I actually spoke to someone who had 5, count them 5, successful agencies, but really it was just one Frankenstein agency, which makes it altogether unsuccessful. He worked with attorneys, dentists, political providers, website development, and I forgot the 5th one off the top of my head here. I can't exactly remember what it was, but it's not relevant to know. The point that matters is this is what you have to do to fix it, and this is what he is doing right now currently to do it. Now, a little bit of backstory to kind of really bring this point home. This guy has 3 kids under 5 years old. His wife is a full-time attorney. His nanny just recently quit because of COVID, so he's been waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning to work from 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then in between that time, he wakes up his kids and gives them breakfast. He then does homeschooling from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then works again until 8 p.m., which he spends a little bit of time with his kids and goes to sleep. And he was telling me today how difficult and challenging this has been for him because frankly, he's just putting in so much time and energy into this business that he's not really able to provide for his family. And I told him, is it about the money? And he said, well, I grew up not wealthy and I just want to make this money for my family, but I can pay rent, I can get food on the table, I have savings, I'm all good, I don't have debt, right? And again, it's like we're a slave to the money gods instead of realizing there's so much more that we can do with our time and being better. So here's exactly what we're going to do for him and how you can utilize this too. So we're going to put together a client list for each of the elements of the agency. So we can do an 80-20 audit. This is the Pareto principle, meaning what 80% of work is getting you 20% results and the alternative, right? The vice versa. What 20% of work is getting 80% of the results. It's mind-numbing how many people just keep moving forward instead of auditing anything in the past with the expectations that something would change. What's the definition of psychosis, right? The definition is doing the same thing over and over and expecting, yes, you guessed it, a different result. You can't expect a different result if you don't audit it. And if you're stuck in the freelancer trap, it's a vicious cycle. It's very hard to break out. You need someone to yank you out of there, and that's gonna be me, this guy. I'm gonna yank you out of there, okay? So here's what you gotta do. You have to put down your client list and put it into niche specific models if you can. If you have too many clients, it might be a little challenging to split them up, but do the best you can. And this is what you need to do, okay? You need to identify the niche, the service that you are providing them or services that you're providing them, how long you have retained that client for, where you acquired the client from, so you have identification of attribution for your prospecting and sales process, The monthly recurring revenue fee, any of your project-based clients, peace, get them out of there. Profit of the client from your revenue. Remember, profit is king. I might have said it was queen earlier, but you get the idea, right? Profit is so important. It's not the revenue. There's so many people out there, gurus, that will be like, oh my God, I have a private jet and I have a Tesla and I make $100,000 a month. Their profit is 10,000 bucks. Chill, yo. You don't want to have that type of profitable business. You want to have a successful, profitable business, not 10%. That's not what anyone wants. It's not how you grow something that's going to make you sane and enjoyed and fulfilled. It's really important. So again, profit of the client. Then this one, very challenging to do, but very important. Time spent per client. Now, if you can't identify it per client, do it per niche, meaning how much time you're spending in this group of clients. If you don't know, use your calendar. If you don't have it on your calendar, use your calendar next month and do it correctly. If you can't do that, hire a VA literally just to shadow you. You can have someone from the Philippines watch you the entire day for $2 to $4 an hour, which would maybe be like 25 bucks a day or something, and just tell you exactly what you did that day. And then at the end of the week, you'll have clarity on how you spent your time. If you do not know how you spend your time, how you are doing or what you are doing with your time, you cannot audit it. And again, it's the great equalizer. We all have 24 hours, whether you're LeBron James or some hobo on the street. It's extremely important to remember how you use your time is key to everything, especially when you have family that you're trying to provide for, especially when you're trying to have sanity in building this business and avoiding this Frankenstein model or the Freelancer Trap model. So again, time spent per client is so important, or time spent per niche. Now, I'm going to recap this one more time real quick. Niche, service you provide them, retention, where you acquired them from, the monthly recurring revenue fee, profit of the client, and time spent for the client. That's 7, yes, always 7 with us, 7 key and important factors to identify. Write it down for every type of client you have in every single niche, and we can immediately, once you look at it, review and audit, man, I'm spending too much time on this client to make this small amount of profit. And you're going to have to feel comfortable to let go of the rope, the branch that Brian mentioned earlier. Part of this is going to be saying, I'm going to give up this $1,000 a month client that I'm making $300 profit because I'm spending 4 hours a week on it, and that's insane. That doesn't make any sense, because if you identify and audit with yourself that 4 hours would be better utilized either to spend time with your family, your friends, or utilizing that time to work on the business to free up more time, because that 4 hours then saves you 8, 20, 30, 100 hours in the month. That's what you should be doing. Or you identify the 4 hours could be better utilized in prospecting or learning how to run better ads so you can get better acquisition cost. Don't play such a small game. Brian talks about it all the time, the infinite game. You're playing a long-term game. Why look back 3 months from now and be like, man, I wish I, fixed this 3 months ago, just so you can make a couple extra $100 in profit, even a couple $1,000? How long are you in this for? Are you just trying to run a business until you run yourself flat into the ground? Like legit. Burnout's real. No matter how much energy or effort or process you think, no matter how great you think you are in terms of your ability to just push through, at some point you're going to get burnt out. I mentioned this last week with the baby. Everyone's telling me, Alex, you're going to not be able to sleep and it's going to be so hard. I'm like, I'll be fine. I got through heart surgery. I'll be good. But after 5 days of just not sleeping, you're like, okay. These people are right. I'm tough-minded, but still, you gotta sleep. Same idea. You might be tough-minded, but you have to work intelligently. Otherwise, you're gonna burn yourself right into the ground and either quit this business or just lose all your clients because you just give up and you just phone it in. You can't do it anymore. So when you're doing the client audit, you're damn right. You're gonna have to let go of some clients that are shitty, but it's gonna save you time. One of our clients, I won't name names obviously on this call, but one of our clients had a complete Frankenstein agency. And she put together over the last month and a half, lost about $10,000 or so in revenue. And she's just turned the corner now and has $20,000 in the pipeline, landed about $7,500 in the last couple days. And now she feels so excited and elated because they're all the same niche, all the same offer, all the same process. It's repeatable. And she had such stress and strain when we were asking her to just let these clients go, cut the bait, trim the fat. We know there's money at hand, but the reality is there's more money that's going to come. Money is not your God. Money is not your God. I'm going to say it one more time. Money is not your God. Please listen to it, God. Got it? Makes sense? This is so important, all right? So do that client audit, the 80-20. And if you need support, reach out to Brian and I, and we'll be like, yo, just pay us $1 billion and we'll help you do it. Joking aside, just do this. It's absolutely critical and important. Brian shared this already, but service level agreement, you can always go back to other clients and share with them a new service level agreement to make sure we're on the same page, especially as we move into a new quarter. It's really easy to do that, where you're like, hey, we're moving to the second quarter of the year. I just want to recap our service level agreement, make sure we're on the same page, giving you exactly what you want. It's for your benefit. You always want to frame it for your benefit. If you don't frame it, for their benefit, the way I made it sound like your benefit. I mean for their benefit, as in why it's so valuable for them to understand the service level agreement so that you can make sure they're getting exactly what their expectations are and over deliver for them if needed, and ensuring that their feedback is being heard and all that jazz. It's not that hard. A lot of people fear this of like, oh my God, but I've already worked with this client forever. This is like a common obstacle when you hire like a project manager, right? It's like, oh man, but like I've spoken to this client for 3 years and I don't know how, that I can hire a project manager to take over the job. All you have to do is get on a call with the project manager, yourself, and the client and say, hey, you thought I was good at this job. Chelsea's so much better. Chelsea's going to take care of you moving forward. I'll still be here making sure Chelsea's giving me the updates on you, but it will allow us to serve you better so I can focus on bigger things to support you and all of our clientele better. Does that sound good? Any logical, normal human being is going to be like, that's great. I will miss you. It's all love. Thanks. Like anyone would. That's the way business works. It's very, very important, okay? So creating an SLA, getting back with them, absolutely key. Depending on when you listen to this, probably near the end of the quarter of Q1 in 2021. If that's the case, great. Utilize this opportunity. Get them back on a call so you can avoid the Frankenstein agency. So like you said, you're not at dinner on a Friday night and getting messages. That's totally unacceptable. And I know all of us have been there. Like, don't even try to bullshit yourself. I know as soon as I said that, you're like, oh, I remember that time that I was at dinner with my wife and I looked at that text and forgot about what we were talking about. That's how you get your wife pissed. No one wants your wife pissed, okay? No one wants it. All right, then what you want to do is identify what you are spending your time on currently and where you can get your time back. This is so important. Now, why is this so critical? If you don't audit what you are doing with your time, how can you possibly get better with your time? I don't know how else to say this. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? There's 5 specific questions that we asked. Brian brought this up briefly, but I just want to recap the 5 of them because it makes it easier. What took my energy today? What non-my role activities did I do? So in this scenario, let's say CEO. What non-CEO activities did I do? What tasks can be delegated? What systems do I need? What can I stop doing? This is a simple audit and prompt that you can use to identify how you're spending your time. The things that took your energy, is there any of those things you can stop doing? The non-CEO activities that you did, can any of those things be delegated? If any of those things can be delegated, what do you need first to delegate it? A system, an SOP. How do you make the SOP? Like Brian already mentioned, the model of auditing yourself or reporting yourself, and bang, that's the 5 questions to clarity. It's not that hard to utilize, and it's immensely powerful. It's so key and will allow you to save tons of hours of time. That's the key. And finally, in closing this out, hiring the right talent. Stop being such a damn ball hog. This is coming from King of Ball Hogs, worst basketball teammate metaphorically ever. Also logically, because I am just terrible at basketball. But outside of that, the metaphoric basketball guy is like, I'm literally stealing the ball from my own teammate to try to go do the job, right? Brian's constantly telling me, get the fuck out of Slack. Let me do this. Hey, don't take this call. I'll take this call, right? Because I want to be a part of it just like you want to be a part of it. I think for some reason, I myself pretend that I'm an octopus. I have 8 arms and I can do everything at every time and I can split myself and I can clone myself and we can't do it. You can't do everything. You just can't. There's too much. It's too much, right? My wife and I are trying to pick out the next show we're going to watch because we just watched Sopranos and we're just like, there's too much. There's just too much media. We can't watch all of it. It's impossible. Same idea in the business. There's just too much. You got to find the right talent. Brian said it already. If you think you're better than every single person, get a fucking reality check. It's not true. Get out of here. Talking from the guy who says, I'm the best sales coach in the world. I do that for my own ego, to feel better about myself when I'm coaching. That doesn't mean that there aren't other amazing sales coaches out there. Come on. There's a difference between being confident in what you do, being arrogant in what you do, and being an absolute idiot in trying to do everything yourself. Stop it. Stop it. You ever seen that Michael Jordan gif? Stop it. Get some help. That's it right there. That's it. Stop it and get some help. Michael Jordan said it, and so did Alex Schlinsky. And I think you care more about my opinion, don't you? That is the Get More Clients show. Brian, did we miss anything?
No, man, that was value packed as always. I'm super excited about this content, and we're going to bring the clips to you from this soon as well, so you get the best pieces of it. But if you enjoy those and want to go deeper, then the links to the full episodes are always attached to those. So make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this. Leave a comment below. Tell us what you thought. And we appreciate, as always, you giving us your most valuable asset, your time.
Thank you, fam. We'll see you back later. I would be a foolish not to mention this at the end. Brian and I both believe LeBron James is the greatest of all time, by the way. Shout out. Just saying. All right, fam. See you later. Do you not agree with that? Because that's